Please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Hi, welcome back. It's flat for the markets actually, not moving at all. Okay, now there is a move on the upside, so keep an eye out on that. The Nifty in the past 5 minutes has made this huge move. It's now getting closer to 11,000, and the ICICI Bank, Infosys, Reliance, HCL Tech are stocks that are really charging ahead. So looks like a good morning of trade. In fact, the advanced decline ratio has also narrowed. Pretty good, Anuj, in the last 10 minutes.
It is quite strong. Also keep in mind, Kotak Bank is recovering. So, and today the market support has got support from IT because of rupee, Reliance at all-time high, as you mentioned.
And banks.
And banks doing well. So all pockets firing. But let's see for this mid-cap recovery, because sometimes, recovery in the mid-caps is perfect, opportunity to sell. So I think I'll watch out for that. The jury's out on that. But the Nifty and Sensex, of course, they have been strong. They have leaders which are doing well, of course.
Oh, absolutely. Sterlite Technologies, by the way, is up almost 6% I think the market is in a mood to reward good earnings. Just today, I'm just talking about today and this morning. All right, let's get you a CNBC TV18 exclusive then. The Parliamentary Standing Committee is quite worried about the arrests of bankers, who isn't right. But then they do say that they're going to call for reforms and likely to submit a report this month. Parikshit Luthra is here to give us all the details. Parikshit, what are you picking up?
Well, we're hearing that in this very session of Parliament, and probably by the first week of August, we could see a report on banking frauds, on the NPA crisis, on reforms that need to be done in the banking sector, and also a separate report on demonetization, which could be tabled in Parliament. We have been speaking to different members of the Standing Committee on Finance, and they've been extremely worried about the crisis that we're looking at, especially about the arrests of top bankers. They're saying that it's not just the CBI, ED, and the Vigilance Department today, it's even state police, even local police officials are going and arresting bankers. So they're saying that how will anyone be able to take decisions? So this is impacting the decision-making, the loan giving or credit giving capacity of these banks. And one line that our sources indicated is that how can you penalize people for an error in judgment in a commercial decision? So I guess this would be a scathing report, and it would really hold the government responsible for poor governance of banks. So the report, which will be out in August, which will really urge the government to go in for governance reforms, give more powers to the RBI to regulate banks and make sure that there are no NPAs in future, or we reduce the amount of bank frauds that we've seen in the last couple of months.
All right, Parikshit, thank you very much for that. That's a CNBC TV18 exclusive. Let's move on. Mindtree reported a good quarter. However, the stock was down close to about 8% in yesterday's trade. Today, it's seen a bit of a recovery on the back of the rupee weakening to all-time lows. But let's discuss some of the factors which are playing on investors' minds. Rosto Ravanan, the MD and CEO of Mindtree, joins in now. Hi, Rosto. Good morning. First, let me start with this enabling resolution of 150 crores or 10% of your last 3 years' profit, whichever is higher, which will be spent by the company as an endowment to Stanford University. Now, people are a bit anxious because this amount, 150 crores, appears to be a bit high, and it could dilute your margins. Your thoughts on it?
Hi, thank you. Good morning. Happy to be here. And maybe you probably started off on the right note. I think there's a complete misperception that's crept into the investor community. What we did was to seek an enabling resolution to make a contribution of up to 150 crores or 10% of profit that you said. But that whole amount is not going to Stanford, and the whole amount is not going also overnight. Like you saw in the press release that we announced and we shared with your journalists yesterday in the earnings release as well, what we have committed to Stanford at the moment is just $2 million. We are exploring 1 or 2 more university collaboration relationships there, and maybe we'll spend a little bit more. But I think the maximum amount this year will probably not exceed more than $4 million across all the relationships that we had. The background to that enabling resolution is that we have our annual regular CSR spend. Some of these endowments will also get counted as a donation, and therefore we needed approval from shareholders to make that. And when you go to shareholders, you would rather take something on the slightly higher side so that you don't have to keep going back again and again. That was the background to that enabling resolution. But the maximum spend this year will probably not exceed $4 million. I also want to reiterate the point that we shared on CNBC and other channels yesterday, as well as the comments made to the analyst on the day of the earnings release. In spite of these contributions, our comment on improving margins in FY19 compared to FY18 still stands on a constant currency basis. Anything that happens on currency is over and above that, but on an operational basis, on a constant currency basis, in spite of these contributions, we will improve profits this year. Nothing has happened to change our stand. We just want to take the opportunity to clarify that misunderstanding that's crept in.
Okay, Ross, so good morning. So it's good to hear that $4 million is the maximum that you will be spending on collaborations. Since you are clarifying a lot of the concerns, let me put one more force to you. The CFO resignation. Of course, CFOs resign everywhere, but the fear this time around was that Mr. Chakraborty resigned with immediate effect and did not stay on board till the new CFO was appointed and a smooth transition was done. Your comments on that?
Again, thank you for raising that. It's just my philosophy at a leadership team level. If there is somebody who's reached a point where they'd like to explore opportunities outside, completely understand, completely support that process, but just don't want prolonged transitions, because then it becomes difficult for the individual and for the organization. In our case, we also had the two additional comfort factors. I ran that function for 11 years, so I understand that function very, very well. And there's a very strong second-level leadership, so which is why we are quite comfortable, to release Jagan early. So he also goes with a clean frame of mind, goes and does something new with his life, and we continue as well there. We made an offer to a candidate. The candidate has accepted. He should join us in due course towards maybe end September, early October kind of a time frame after completing his notice period. But in our case, like I said, I just prefer not to have prolonged transitions.
Okay, Rostov, hi, good morning. Let's talk about some of the positive factors here then. This revenue growth was quite stupendous, and especially in digital, which is now 47% of your overall revenue. Can you maintain this pace?
That's our intent. I think we announced in the beginning of the year that we expect FY19 to be a very strong growth year. If you see over the last 3 or 4 quarters, every quarter we've been accelerating revenue growth, good deal wins, good pipelines, increasing win ratios. So many things are going well for us based on the strategy and the investments that we have made. So hope that we should continue a strong growth momentum for the year. The only thing is, I'd rather not set any expectations for Q2 because Q1 was very, very strong. So I don't want to set any expectations on maintaining a similar growth rate for Q2 at the moment. But nonetheless, completely stand by the commitment we made in the beginning of the year that this year will be a strong revenue growth year and we will improve margins over last year.
Russell, let me come back to the CSR spend or the endowment point. So what you're trying to say is that, 150, the company is not likely to spend the entire amount of 150 crore. And should we expect this $4 million spend, which is about 25 to 30 crores at the current rupee rate, as roughly the annual spend by Mindtree on their CSR activities across various university and funds?
No, whatever we are doing regularly on our CSR activities is outside that $4 million that I mentioned to you. So, there are things that we do. This is a very strong part of the soul and the culture of Mindtree. But that is happening every year from the day Mindtree started. It happened last year. It's happening this year. So this is the additional amount we are spending on collaborating with reading research universities. Like I said, this is what we think we will do this year. Difficult to predict, how some of this will shape up because all of these are absolutely brand new areas. It's quite likely that quite unlikely that we'll do something like this continuously. But the $4 million is roughly what we think we will spend this year. But we'd like to again reassure, whatever we do, more or less, doesn't take us away from our margin guidance that we had given.
All right. Rosso, thanks a lot for your time today. Good talking to you. All the best for next few quarters. The Mindtree stock is trying to recover, but there's been a bit of a selling pressure at higher levels as well. Ashwini Gujral, Mitesh Thakkar and Prakash Kaba back with us. The markets had a good first hour, especially on the Bank Nifty. Even on the mid caps, there's been quite a bit of recovery. Ashwini, you reckon this recovery is I mean, looking like it's going to sustain? And is this still a good time to take longs, or would you rather take shorts here? What would be your call?
Yeah, I think it's a fairly strong recovery from lower levels, and you could be looking at a 200-300 point recovery on the bank nifty, maybe 11,030, 50 back on the nifty, because lots of sectors are participating. Bank nifty particularly has ICICI Bank leading it, so even now this is a good point to get long, because you have 3 days of fairly decent downside, no follow through, and that should lead the market to move higher. Having said that, Mindtree is a buy with a stop of 990, target of 1025. NIT Tech is a buy with a stop of 1100, target of 1165. And ICICI Bank, the point here is that 260 is very strong support for ICICI Bank. 26,750 was very strong support for Nifty. So I think that way ICICI Bank could power the bank Nifty much higher. So this is a buy with a stop of 260, target of 275.
Okay, the stock that's really firing up now is Bajaj Finserv. In fact, both the Bajaj twins, Bajaj Finserv and Bajaj Finance, are soaring. Bajaj Finserv, remember, the numbers looked quite good. It was a general insurance business that surged. Ashwini, any thoughts? I mean, this move looks, momentous right now. Would you trade it or buy into it as an investor?
See, these guys are the next HDFC twins. Okay, so good result, bad result, keep adding to your positions, and if they have taken care of this kind of correction, you can just imagine the kind of buying that is there. So my sense is they will go much further. So even on rallies, I would not hesitate to buy, because that's how you can build up positions. But on all declines, at least they should be bought. They are now outperforming probably even many of the larger banks.
Yes, absolutely. And these banks also have a lot of price. Bajaj Finserv and Finance also have a lot of pricing power. So even in an environment of rising cost of funds, these companies have, on the whole, managed to maintain their performance. Let's get in Mitesh Thakkar and Prakash Kaba into the conversation as well. Mitesh, your thoughts on the opening in the first hour of trade? Would you trade long at these levels? Your individual trading ideas on stocks?
Yeah, I'm trading with a mixed bias as of yet. I think, we haven't had a range breakout or breakdown. So I have one buy and one sell. HDFC Limited somehow is getting into a sell mode on the intraday chart. So keep a stop at 1980 or just above it and look for targets of 1935. While Jubilant Foods has been consolidating for the last few days, and the breakout happens once the stock price gets past this 1440, 1441 levels, and we are practically there. So buy above that, keep a stop at 1425, look for a target of 1475.
Okay, and Prakash, what about you? What stocks are you trading now?
Yeah, I'm basically long on the Nifty. Plus, I like Infosys. Infosys certainly is looking good. The target that I had is 1360. It's very close to the target. I'd modify the target to 1370 to 1380. Looks very strong, Infosys, going up. ICICI is the bank, another stock that I like. I would like to modify the target here as well. The target that I had was 270 on the screen, but I like to modify it to 275 zones. Stop still would be around 262. So ICICI Bank is a buy as well.
Okay, gentlemen, thanks a lot for joining us. Well, another stock that's on our radar right now is Jain Irrigation. The company has bagged almost 1,000 crore rupee irrigation order in Madhya Pradesh. Anil Jain, the MD of Jain Irrigation, joins on the phone line to talk about that. Mr. Jain, good morning. Thanks for joining us. Tell us a little bit about this order and what does this do to the MI's business? What kind of growth do you foresee over the next few quarters?
We are expecting very strong growth in the business. In terms of this order, as a country, earlier when irrigation was done, people will build dam and then canals, and, the water use efficiency productivity was not there. In this new project, you are ensuring water use productivity, you are also water conservation and agriculture productivity, all three. So this is one unique project, very large size of it. It's about almost 237,000 acres with more than 60 to 70,000 farmers. So we are expected to complete the project in 2 to 3 years. But it would also give us access to create more market for our retail business, that is drip irrigation. And like this, there are more projects in pipeline. They are going under bid, either in MP or Maharashtra. There was a news day before yesterday. that central government had approved 13,500 crore rupees of projects in Maharashtra also for the irrigation side, which would come now in next few months. So we are seeing this kind of a very intense activity in the irrigation sector across different parts of India, partly with all the things central government is doing, but also the state level. So we expect overall irrigation business to grow considerably, not only this year. With this kind of orders in hand, I think in next few years we can roll out at very high level of growth rate.
Okay, which are the other states which are likely to open up bidding for such orders? What is the rough size of these? You spoke about Maharashtra, but if you could give us, the likely trajectory of order wins for Jain irrigation.
So, these are competitive tenders, so one cannot really forecast what will happen. But knowing what the type of work we have done before and these type of integrated irrigation projects, we see more business coming up in MP. We are seeing business, of course, in Maharashtra. We see some additional business to come in Andhra Pradesh. We are seeing opening up of opportunities in UP, Bihar, as well as Orissa. Now, traditionally, drip irrigation or these kind of intense irrigation projects have been more in western and southern parts of India. But we are seeing now northern states, eastern states also opening up. And that's why I feel not only that we'll do more business in our traditional states where we have been strong, but these newer states like MP, Chhattisgarh, or even UP, Bihar, maybe Orissa. So, and the numbers, the total likely projects to come up over next 2 to 3 years are going to be 60 to 80,000 crores. And even if we get very small part of these, it would ensure that our irrigation business, and which is most profitable business, will maintain a growth rate of on a higher base of somewhere between 20 and 30%. When we started the year, we talked about that irrigation division will grow 20%. But as we sit now, with the developments have been there since then till now, I feel confident that this year itself we would grow more than 30%. How much more, one has to wait and see, but at least 30% growth will be there. So this is quite positive news that finally after a lull of last few years, growth momentum is back and it would be sustainable.
Okay, all right. Thanks a lot for joining us. So 30% growth is what they see in the MIS business, and lots of projects getting approved. Almost 14,000 crores of projects approved from Maharashtra government alone. Let's take a break on that note. Lots more coming up on the other side. Stay with us.